thing, but really, it's obviously not bothering Sammy these days, so I wouldn't let it bother you.
Yeah, that's true. But do you think that it's dangerous that he's like labeling that era Van Hagar? Do you think it's like screwing up the brand, or it doesn't really matter at this point?
I don't think it matters at this point because people have been using the Van Hagar moniker since they found out that Sam was going to be in the band. And it had unofficially been called Van Hagar for years. This is nothing new. It's not like Sam came up with this a month ago and he goes, hey, I'm going to call the band Van Hagar now. Oh my God, Sam, I can't believe we never thought of that before, right? I mean, I don't think it's messing with the brand. Everybody knows it's Van Halen, and it's just an easy way to differentiate who is singing with the band. Don't get hung up on, is it a completely different sounding band? Should they have changed the name because it's a different sounding band? I mean, your head will hurt and even explode if you think about it too much. So don't get hung up on it. Just enjoy the music, brother.
That's right.
And keep on rocking.
Well, speaking of rocking, you know who's coming to rock the boat?
Look, up in the sky. It's a bird.
It's a plane.
It's
Midwest fucking Ron. That's right, it's Midwest fucking Ron, and he's coming in with double duty, Dave. He's got 2 letters, and he says here, in your episode 65, what happens when you get let go by Van Halen? Dave and Dave investigate this proposition in regards to both Sammy Hagar's 1997 album, Marching to Mars, and Gary Sharon's band Tribe of Judah. For our episode 65. Why not expand this concept to include Michael Anthony with Chickenfoot, Mitch Malloy with Shine, and Wolfgang Van Halen with Mammoth? Midwest fucking Ron. And he comes in with a second letter, and he says, did you guys contact Dave's management to find out why Dave dropped or got dropped from the Kiss tour? Midwest fucking Ron. He's coming back in. He's swinging left and right. So this is what I say to him. Okay, well, Midwest Ron, I don't see it the same way in regards to Michael, Anthony, Wolf, and Mitch Malloy. Let me explain. We were comparing 2 back-to-back Van Halen lead singers who got let go by the band and examining their post-Van Halen projects. Now, we did an episode on Chickenfoot. We'll probably do another one with Chickenfoot 3, but Michael Anthony, it's not much to examine there. Mitch didn't fully join Van Halen, so it's not like it was a post-project because he never really got going. Wolfgang Van Halen, Mammoth WVH, we did a monstrous episode on that in June, for sure. So I think we kind of covered that ground, but we were really just looking at the 2 Van Halen singers, both got let go by the band, and their post-Van Halen projects. That was sort of the theme. Also, did we contact David Lee Roth management? Yeah, I have been contacting David Lee Roth management for a while, trying to get an interview with Dave, this and that. They don't really communicate that much, but as much as I have heard, he has chosen not to tour. He wasn't kicked off the Kiss tour. Be very careful the way you read that interview with Rolling Stone. Nowhere does Gene say Dave was kicked off. Oh, Dave was coming out on stage and he was sounding like shit, so we just kicked him off the tour. He didn't say any of that. He was just making fun of Dave, but personally think he's pissed off Dave left the tour. Because lessen the ticket, that's for sure. Hey, let me tell you something. Dave's not on those dates. A lot of people are asking why. A lot of people might have bought those tickets hoping Dave was on that tour. A lot of people were excited when they found that David Lee Roth was opening for Kiss. I know I was. Drove to fucking Pennsylvania to see it. I don't know. What do you think, Dave?
I mean, will a bunch of people be looking to resell their tickets because Dave's not on the tour? Yeah, I think so. How many people are like that? I don't know. I think people will just be ecstatic at this point if they actually get to see Kiss play.
Yeah.
So I don't think there'll be much pushback from that.
Yeah, that's true.
Regarding the concept of, what happens when you get let go by Van Halen, well, we could include the concept, but I think that's a little overreaching. Your definition is a little more generous than what we were going for. I mean, Dave and I were having conversations about, how much we should include or not include even Smile. And the only reason we didn't include more of that was because we already done a deep dive on Even Smile. We didn't want to repeat ourselves. Right. But, of course, I can't resist a good Sam versus Dave. So I almost forced Dave to slip it in the conversation somehow. But I see where you're coming from, Ron. But it was really more so about, I know Michael Anthony was let go unceremoniously, but, I mean, the Chickenfoot album really wasn't his album. It was more of a band album, and Mitch wasn't even technically in the band long enough for anyone to care.
Right.
And, yeah, like Dave said, we already did a deep dive of Wolf's album.
And we've done 2 interviews with Mitch. We kind of explored Mitch on 2 full episodes in 2 different ways. We did that Monsters podcast on Wolf, and then also we did the Chickenfoot albums. I think we covered it.
I think so.
On to letter number 5, which comes from Jonathan Travers, and he has an audio message. This is a new trend, Dave. We're doing audio letters. Here's a clip.
Dave and Dave, what's up, boys? It's Jonathan Travers here. Got a couple things. One, I just wanted to set the record straight. That last audio comment I had, I didn't find it cool that Eddie cut in and stopped BTO's set. What I thought was cool was the trick that he did was flinging the cigarette pack and catching the one cigarette. That I thought was cool as shit. But I was listening to a podcast where one of you was talking about missing a show. I got one for you. So I was 13 in 1984. All 4 of my walls were nothing but Van Halen posters, pictures, or album covers tacked to the wall. So when the 84 tour hit, I was supposed to go with one of my friends, and his older brother was going to take us. He had 6th row on the right side, which would have been Ed's side. A week prior, I get grounded. I got caught riding my bike around midnight with a couple other buddies of mine, sneaking out of the house. Supposed to be camping out at somebody's house, causing trouble. But anyway, so I didn't get to go to that. So Tim comes in. I don't know how many days afterwards it was. His brother had taken pictures, and I'll never forget everybody crowding around his desk. And he's just slinging these pictures down on his desk one after the other like he's got 4 aces in a poker game. He goes, boom, just laying these down. Big grin on his face. I actually had to walk away. I was getting sick to my stomach. They were the most awesome close-up pictures of fucking Eddie and Dave. Oh, my God. I just remember I can still remember just getting so nauseous and walking away. So I kind of went into this little funk. And after a while, my parents realized it was for real. So to make up for it, my mother... She got me, when Roth went solo, I got 2 shows back-to-back in Detroit and a day off, and then it was the Toledo Sports Arena. I was 15 then, so that was pretty badass. But the Toledo Sports Arena show, I still have tinnitus to this day. I have the Eat 'em and Smile era band to thank, because I'll tell you what, as great as it was, because I worked my way to the front row for that one, but I'll tell you what, it was so obnoxiously loud. You either had to look at what Roth's mouth was doing or what Steve Vai was doing on the guitar, because every song sounded the same. It was so fucking loud. It was amazing. Everybody that was around just was like, what is this? I mean, it was just brutal. But anyway, yeah, so I just wanted to pass that on. Yeah, not only did I miss that show, but that's the Detroit show where they unveiled the Lost Weekend winner. I'm not sure. I've heard over the years people have said that that's part of where the rope swinging where Panama was filmed. Man, I'll tell you what, I still trade every one of my concerts right now to go back just for that one Van Halen show in 84. I'd do it in a heartbeat. But anyway, just thought I'd pass a couple things along. Love the podcast. Love geeking onto it. Stay frosty, brothers.
Well, Jonathan, that was interesting. It's quite a story. Yes, I remember that David Lee Roth solo show. It was loud as hell. I remember that was one of the loudest concerts I've ever been to. Maybe a little nervous at the time. I remember taking some napkins that I had and stuffing it in my ears to make sure I wasn't going to get hurt with my ears. I was 16 at the time. That's for sure. But I tell you can't fuck around. I just did an interview with Brian Setzer from the Stray Cats. And he ended up with tinnitus, Dave. And he says it is no joke to get tinnitus. He says it sounds like a tea kettle whistling in your ear 24/7. That's not something you want. However, the 1984 show that you talk about, I have a similar story where, my dad had asked me what I want for my birthday. On my 14th birthday, he was allowing me to go to concerts. This is my first concert ever. First thing I said was Van Halen. So it was the 1984 tour. They were playing the Garden in March of 84. And my father looked into it and he says, the tickets already went on sale and they're sold out. And I checked into the scalp tickets and they were $50 a head. Now, $50 today sounds like a free ticket compared to anything. But back in 84, when the face values are like $14, $50 is more than triple. So my dad was like, oh, no, I'm not going to pay $50 now. I always look back and they're like, oh, I should have begged him or at least paid half or something like that. We could have gone. But the more I think about it, and Dave, I think you'll agree with this knowing my dad, I think even if I paid for half and my dad bought the other ticket and we went to the show, I just realized he would have pulled me out of the show. and took me home because of all the pot and all the shit that was going on. You know my dad, like, you know there was no way he was sitting through that crowd. He ended up taking me to see Adam Ant at Radio City Music Hall, which was a much tamer show than a Van Halen show at Madison Square Garden in 1984. That would have definitely been like, I mean, especially in 84, there would have been like M80s going off and like fucking pot haze. My father would have like, and then it would have killed me that we got these tickets and we got there and he's like pulling me out of the place. But I do have that regret. I have the bootleg from that show and I used to listen to it all the time like, oh, I should have been there. But it's kind of a sore spot for me too. What do you think of that, Dave?
It wasn't meant to be, Dave.
Yeah, it wasn't meant to be. That's it. Letter number 6 comes from Peter Geyerson, and he is from New Zealand, Dave. We're really all over the map. Got Toronto here and now New Zealand. I have finally got the answer to the correct pronunciation of 316 track. And the answer is that you and Midwest Ron are both wrong. But here in the part of the world where English is both spoken and spelled correctly, as days are followed by weeks, which are followed by months, then years, we would write today's date as 09 August 2021. So it's the day, the month, and the year. So it's 090821. This makes perfect sense, as the months do not come before the days. Hence, if 316 was written in honor of Wolf's birthday, then clearly he was born 31st of June, so it was 316. Never mind that June has 30 days. Obviously, I'm taking the piss. Go back to listening to the first 2 Van Hagar albums, 5150 and OU 812. Cheers! Peter Geyerson from New Zealand. Now, he's a character, this guy, huh? Oh, Pete, you're such a card. I appreciate you trying to put a positive spin on what was otherwise an ugly war between Ron and I. However, we have put this battle to rest, and we have moved on to greener pastures. What do you say, Dave?
I just want to know, does he call the Hagar, Sean, Aronson, and Shreve album Hassas, or does he call it something else?
Who knows?
Just curious.
He might call it Sasha. Exactly. You never know.
God.
You never know. Letter number 7 comes from our friend, Southeast Kurt Nice Guy Lancos. Oh, God, I never get it right.
Yeah, I don't even think you're close.
I know. He says, I just want to say hi again and send you these photos from Nashville. We're at the Rockin' Pod 2021. It's so great meeting Greg Runoff as well as Billy Sheehan and Greg Bissonette. Billy and Greg played at a club Friday night with a couple of rotating musicians, and they played Yankee Rose, Shy Boy, and Ain't Talk About Love. Wish you guys could have been here, maybe next year. Looking forward to your next episode, as always. Southeast Nice Guy Kurt Lancos. So Kurt, who does the Retro Zest podcast, I know he always loves those plugs. Yeah, now listen, I want to say, everybody check this out. It's coming up. So the guys who run Rockin' Pod, Aaron Camaro and Chris Sinzak, these 2 guys run the Disciple Geek podcast. Now, what I think they did, and I remember correctly, I saw this online, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because by the time this episode drops, this might be out, and you guys definitely want to check this out. So they do a series in their podcast called Albums Unleashed. I love this series that they do. They do it from time to time. What they do, like a deep dive on an album, and they get guys from the album, like the producer or one of the band members, and they do like a deep dive discussion about the album. The cool thing about Rockin' Pod this year is Billy Sheehan and Greg Bissonette from the Eat 'Em and Smile Band were there, and Sinzak and Camaro did a live Albums Unleashed on Eat 'Em and Smile with Billy and Greg, which is set to drop soon. I know they're probably working on it, but it should be coming soon. They haven't dropped the podcast in a while, but I imagine it's imminent. So check that out, Disciple Geek Podcast. I don't know them at all. I just listen to their podcast. They do a good job. And I know that everybody here probably would love to listen to that. So definitely check that out. So what do you think about that, Dave?
Looking forward to that podcast. And one of these years, Dave, we'll have to make it out there.
Yeah, I know. One of these years. Now, letter number 8 comes from Shannon the Dude, and this guy's getting fresh, Dave. He is getting fresh. So he says here, quiet, Dave. We have to have an intervention. Wolf's album is good, but Loud Dave is putting it in the Hall of Fame. Tap the brakes. Let's send him to rehab, and you, me, and Midwest Ron can do a show while he's away. This son of a bitch. Can you believe this guy? This motherfucker. And then he sent me another clip of that fucking parrot singing Van Halen, and he says,